Hello snowboarders of the internet, I am your host TC and this is Top 5s, the only weekly top 5 show in snowboarding that you come to see what board is gonna get you to jib, jump, and just ride the mountain the best. On today's episode, we are gonna be talking about the top 5 beginner and intermediate boards for the park. Number 5, the Capita Ultrafear. This board has been in their line forever and there's a reason for it. This thing is super solid. It's a little bit wider underfoot, so it makes it a little bit easier to learn how to slide rails and ledges sideways on it where it doesn't feel super catchy or anything like that. But you also have a bunch of rocker on the nose and the tail. So when you're learning how to press either on the nose or the tail, it makes it quite a bit easier for you where you can just kind of lean back instead of really having to get that press in and really lock it. The board pretty much does it for you. Now it's not going to handle those super large jumps, but honestly, if you're watching this video, neither are you. So those smaller and intermediate jumps are going to be completely fine for it, and that's really all you need. This board will handle that park for you, and it's got a little bit sneaky power board to it with all that rocker and that bigger nose. It will float pretty well for you as well. Number 4, the Rossignol Ampage. This board is going to be more tailored towards that beginner to lower level intermediate, but if you're just a solid intermediate, don't let that scare you off. It is going to be camber underneath your feet and then a large rocker zone on the nose and the tail. So that's going to make it super easy to butter and to learn how to press on. This board is also going to be wider underneath your feet and throughout the middle of the board, so it's going to make it easier to learn how to slide sideways on and all of that without being super catchy. If that board's narrower, you go to step on the toe on accident, it's catching and you're going straight over the handlebars there. But super forgiving board where because of that nose and the tail are softer and that torsional flex is going to be as well, approaching those rails is going to be nice and easy. Now if you do land a little backseat or a little nose heavy, it might not save you, but hey, we're all learning here, and as long as you land bolts, you'll be totally fine. This board will handle those jumps up to about 20 feet with no problems. Once you get past that, it might get a little squirrely. If your ability level is past that, it might be time to look at a different top 5. Number 3, the K2 Geometric. This board is that Midwest meat and potatoes, that farm-grown board that you pretty much think of when you think of rail riders. This thing is pretty much indestructible where you can bash it off the side of a rail. It has an extruded base on it, so it's pretty much indestructible on the bottom end there. For those of you that don't know what an extruded base is, it's a cheap base that you don't have to wax, but it'll just hold up to the abuse. And this board will hold up to the abuse because there isn't all that fancy tech, all of those agents to make it lighter, faster, all that stuff. They're like, no, give it the wood core. And you're pretty much going to beat the crap out of this thing because you are learning how to pretty much ride on rails and everything. And in general, your board's not supposed to ride on rails, so it's just going to get beat up. So you might as well have one that can take that abuse. While I have you here, you might as well like, subscribe, click that bell, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our content that we have coming out. Number 2, the Gnu C Money. This board is going to be the C3 version of the Gnu Money, so camber dominant with a tiny bit of reverse camber right in between your feet. Make it a little bit more easy to foot steer while you're approaching rails, especially while you're learning. But the main thing to keep in mind on this board is it is going to be nice and durable where you have 2 independent edges. So when you are learning how to ride, you're probably going to smack your edge on a rail or a box every now and then, kind of dent it. You can pull that back out, re-epoxy it. It's going to be all good. If you do that on a fully wrapped board, it's gonna get really weird. Part of the edge is gonna pop out somewhere else. They take care of that problem for you. You can also jam the nose or the tail into a box, ledge, pretty much any feature that you're probably going to do it on. Everybody's done it. It's just bound to happen. With this, it's super easy to epoxy. It doesn't actually get moisture towards the core unless you really bash this thing in, but the name of the game on this board is just really easy to repair. So you're gonna need it, especially because you're learning how to ride rails, boxes, jumps, all that stuff. It's gonna take some abuse, and why not be able to fix it with relative ease? Honorable mentions. Remember, these are all great options. They just weren't able to crack our top 5 beginner to intermediate park boards. The first honorable mention is the Bataleon Disaster. This board is going to be really soft. It's going to have 3BT in the nose and the tail, so it's going to make it super catch free, especially when you're learning to approach rails, all of that. You don't have to worry about it just getting really hooky on you and you're stuck on your edge. The second honorable mention is the Rome Gangplank. This board is going to have a flat to rocker profile, so it's not going to be the craziest aggressive board out there, but it's going to have a really good snap to it where you don't have to really load it up quite as much to get that return out of it. And the final honorable mention board is the Signal Park Rocker. This board is also going to have a flat to rocker profile, so don't let that full rocker name fool you. It is still going to have some precision to it where you can hold it on edge and it's not going to give out like a total rocker board would, but it's also still going to be nice and easy to turn and nice and catch free. Remember, these are all great options. They just weren't able to crack our top 5. If you want to support us further, head on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. Sure, I could explain it here, but we have a great video over there getting into it really in depth. And the number one all-around park boards for beginner and intermediate riders is the Nitro Cheap Thrills. This board is pretty much everything you need when you're first getting into the park, but you still know how to ride. Where this thing is super forgiving in every sense. You go off a jump with it, you land a little wonky, not super stable, it's still gonna keep tracking straight for you, where you can take a run off, you don't have to be super precise on it, but if you want to get that extra little oomph out of it, you can. Where this thing is gonna progress with you, you are gonna be able to ride it a little bit longer. Even though it does have that flat profile, there's still a nice snap to it. Just load this thing up and have a good time. As always, guys, I've been your host, TC, and this has been our top 5 for best all-around park boards for beginners and intermediates. Leave a comment down below. I do want to know what you guys have to think. And if this list wasn't for you, why don't you go watch one of our other top 5s, because we have a whole bunch of them.